This will be the orientation for the whole journey and playlist of studying inflection. In other words, changing the base form of a verb or adjective into another form according to one's purpose and context. And inflection is by far the most important aspect of studying Korean. Why is inflection by far the most important? Because you literally have to inflect a verb or adjective almost every single time if you were to use them. And eventually, most grammatical concepts and skills and structures are formed through inflection. So therefore, the problem is always inflection. If you have a hard time building sentences, the reason for that, the problem is inflection. If you have a hard time speaking, the problem is inflection. If you have a hard time understanding when listening, the problem is inflection. Reading and writing, inflection. Precisely, adequately, and efficiently expressing yourself, inflection. So literally, inflection is everything in some sense. There are 3 reasons, in large, why you would inflect a verb or adjective. Number 1 would be tense. In Korean, verbs and adjectives have to change in form, in other words, be inflected according to tense. Obviously, past tense and future tense, but also present tense as well. You have to take a base form and know how to inflect it into actual form past tense, future tense, but also present tense, because a base form is not for actual usage. Number 2 would be fusing with other words. And when taking a base form of a verb or adjective and having it fuse with another word, it is not so simple, because it is not just literally taking a base form and another word and attaching them immediately. In the process, the base form will change in form, in other words, be inflected, depending on which word it is being fused with. Number 3 would be nuance. Depending on what kind of nuance you want to express through saying a verb or adjective, that verb or adjective can be inflected into another version without changing in meaning, but just changing in nuance. For example, the adjective cold can be changed into cold, but just a frustrated version. So therefore, a base form will not be used except for extremely rare exceptions. And that is why I call base forms of verbs and adjectives display forms. A form that is only used to be displayed in the dictionary and not for actual usage. And display forms, as you can see, end with 다, 걷다, 춥다. So, the process of changing a display form into some kind of an actual form would be, in short, inflecting, changing the 다 ending into some kind of another actual ending that you can actually use according to your purpose and the context that you are in. But, as you can see, in most cases, I cannot simply just drop the 다 ending and immediately replace it with another ending. For example, in this case, I placed the display form of the verb walk, 걷다. I am trying to inflect the 다 ending and change it into 써요, the ending 써요 in green, which indicates actual form past tense. However, in order to get to the ending in green, I had to do something first in the middle, in the blue section. And the blue section in the middle looks quite random, irregular, and arbitrary. But if I know certain rules that tell me how to get through the middle section so that I can eventually get to the ending that I want to use, in this case 써요, actual form past tense in green, now I can finally say walked. The same in this case. I placed the display form of the adjective cold, 춥다. I am trying to inflect the 다 ending and change it into the 면 ending in brown, which is the ending for if. However, once again, in order to get to the 면 ending, I first had to do something here in the middle, in the blue section. And the blue section in the middle, once again, looks quite random, irregular, and arbitrary. But if I know certain rules that tell me how to get through the blue section, I can finally get to the ending 면 in brown, if, and eventually say, if cold. Therefore, in short, a display form, a form that ends with 다, is simply a starting point. You start here and apply a set of rules to figure out how you can get through the blue section in the middle, and eventually get to some kind of an actual ending according to your purpose and context. So, I will call the blue section in the middle irregular middle section. Because it is what stays in the middle of the starting point, the display form in other words, and some kind of an ending that you want to use. It is what stays in the middle of the two that looks completely irregular if you don't know the rules that enable you to navigate through it and get to the ending that you want to use. Then, what are the rules? That is what we will be studying throughout this whole journey of studying inflection. You have to know two sets of rules, and since these rules are what enable you to navigate and go to the endings, I will call them each inflection route number 1 and inflection route number 2. Why are there two sets of rules? Why are there two routes? And how do you know when to apply which? That depends on the ending that you want to use. Of course, there are a variety of endings, and some endings belong to inflection route number 1. Some belong to inflection route number 2. For example, you can see that I colored the 써요 ending, actual form past tense, in green, because 써요 is an ending that belongs to inflection route number 1. So, if you want to get to and have access to the 써요 ending, you have to apply the rules within inflection route number 1. On the other hand, you can see that I colored the 면 ending, if, in brown, because 면 is an ending that belongs to inflection route number 2. So, if you want to get to the if ending, 면 ending, and have access to it, you have to apply the rules within inflection route number 2. There are actually more inflection routes other than 1 and 2, but if you learn and understand 1 and 2, you can pretty much say anything in most conversational situations. Therefore, the priority will be 1 and 2, And once you learn 1 and 2, that will serve as a strong foundation, so adding more skills and knowledge from then on will not be as confusing or puzzling anymore. I will see you in the next video of this playlist, and there we will actually start talking about the technicalities in detail.